Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to another episode of The Package Tourist, hosted by yours truly, the Package Tourist, the magical mystery tour called life, Matthew DiBiase. Tonight's guest is author James Sherwood Metts. James resides in Fort Worth, Texas, and he is the author of the book Planet Storyland, which won the Bragg Medallion Award. Tonight, we will be discussing his literary career. James, welcome to the show. It's a great honor and privilege to have you here. I'd like to start off by asking you, James, what led you to become an author? What were you doing before you wrote your book, Planet Storyland?
Before I wrote my book, I had a small cleaning business. But what started me to write was a question I had. And that question was, what would a kid from another planet think about how we live?
Okay. Now, so this is Planet Storyland is a child's book, correct?
Well, it's really for young adults. I consider it more for students, parents, teachers, and librarians.
Okay.
I just feel like the contents of the book leans more towards inspiring students to engage more in writing.
Okay. Now, James, how long did it take you to write this book?
Matthew, I actually thought it was a simple question, and I figured it wouldn't take me very long, but actually it took me a little over 7 years.
Okay.
Yeah, it was a labor that I enjoyed, and it was also very frustrating because there was a lot of rearranging that was going on, and sometimes I could deal with one page or even a paragraph for a few days or even a week, just because as I read it, just didn't seem like it was right, and I always had to work on fine-tuning it.
So, is it accurate to say, as you were writing this book, you did it like it's kind of like by feel, as it were?
Actually, the way I started was one evening. I said, James, you're going to sit down and you're going to write this. So I thought about the question, and I put a paper and pen by my bed, and I laid down and closed my eyes, and I thought about the question, and then all of a sudden I could see the scene playing out. And I laid there for probably about 15 minutes, and then I thought, okay, let me see if I can write all this down. And so I wrote down what I could, and then the next day I did the same thing, and I did that probably almost 4 weeks before I had a rough draft.
Okay. Now, James, please tell our listeners about your hero, Quentin Augustine.
Quentin Augustine. I came up with the name Quentin Augustine because the book is filled with a lot of conversation between Quentin and his father. Quentin Augustine is, if you look at the initials, is QA. Okay. So there's a lot of questions and answers that are throughout the book. And Quentin is just a curious kid that he found this book that intrigued him so much that he wanted to see what it was like to live on that planet. And the name of that book that he found was called Earthling. So he was a little surprised by how the people lived, because the Earthlings look just like the people on his planet, which is the planet Gliese.
Okay.
And he just thought it was kind of odd that they would that they lived in suspense, and they were constantly in battle, so to speak.
Okay. In terms of Earth years, how old would Quentin be if you applied Earth years to Quentin Augustine?
At the time that he picked up the book, he was 15.
Okay.
When he decided to make the trip to Earth, he waited until he was 18.
Okay. Where exactly is the planet Gliese located? Did you identify a specific star system where the planet Gliese is located?
That's difficult because I chose Gliese because it was considered an exoplanet, a planet that is looked upon as very much like Earth, except for Gliese is about 3 times the size of Earth, and it's 20 light years, a little more than 20 light years away from Earth. So you're talking a little over 100 trillion miles away.
Okay. I mean, this is an honest-to-God planet. I mean, this is something, was it Hubble discovered? This is a real thing, eh?
This is real, yes. There are a number of planets. There's a Gliese 581, let me see, B, C, and D.
Okay.
They were first discovered, I believe it was in 2007 in Chile at the La Salle Observatory.
Okay. What finally convinces Quentin Augustine to make the daring journey to Earth? What finally compels him to do it?
The conversation that he had with his father convinced him that there is something that the Earthlings are missing, that could level the playing field and make life a little bit more accessible to just about anybody. And so even though his father and his mother both were explaining to him the dangers of making such a trip and the way of life down there as opposed to their way of life, which they considered ours to be alien. Quentin, he was just, hey, Matthew, he's a kid, you know. He thinks that, you know, he could possibly talk to them and share with them what he has learned and what they might be, you know, just overlooking.
Okay.
So he eventually decided to make that trip. His parents didn't know, but he figured out a way to come down to Earth and see what it looks like for himself.
Okay. Now, does Quentin Augustine make the journey alone, or does he have a companion or companions?
Well, the way I constructed the story, I didn't want to take away from the message in that's in the book. I really thought if I got more into the journey there and who was involved and whatever else they might have encountered along the way, that would detract, kind of steer away from the main thrust of the story.
Okay.
So there's no mention of him having a companion or anything like that. But he did make it a point to talk to Randolph Reed Stewart, who was the author of the book Earthlings that he had read, who had made that trip. And there is some conversation about Randolph Reed Stewart, his early beginnings, and his trip there, along with all the people involved in also the construction of the space shuttle. But it's just a small reference because, you know, the book is written kind of simple in the sense that there's not a lot of detail.
Okay.
It's 118 pages, and it's 18,464 words, so it's not a huge book. It's just a short story that someone could read probably in 2 hours if they found it to be interesting, which,
Okay.
from my understanding, a lot of people have.
Now, does Quentin make any friends on Earth other than that author that you talked about? Did he make any other friends when he lands on Earth?
When he arrived, yes, well, there's no mention of names, but when he arrived on Earth, he went to the LaSalle Observatory and spoke with the managers there and showed them the proof of where he had come from and what life was like there, and then went on to explain what led him up to commentary.
Okay. Now, does Quentin get into any danger while he's on Earth? Or is his alien... Okay, he's already exposed his alien nature to those scientists there, but does he get into any type of danger, any threatening danger, anything like that?
No, I don't go that far.
Okay.
His father did give him an example of what a situation might look like if he were there attempting to share some information with Earthlings, but at that point he has already decided that he was coming here anyway.
Okay. Are there any autobiographical elements when you were writing this book? Are there any autobiographical elements? Any things from your own personal life experience that you injected into this book, James?
Oh, absolutely. His sister Carmen reminds me of my sister Camille. She was kind of a jokester, and so Carmen, just like my sister Camille, is younger than Quentin, and she kind of picks at him from time to time. But Quentin, I kind of modeled him after me. He has a bird that he feeds regularly, and he does visit the library just about every day. And he had a method to it, which was to start at one end and work from the top shelf all the way down to the bottom shelf and on and on and on. So that's kind of the character of Quentin and somewhat myself as well.
Okay. James, is this book conventionally published, or did you self-publish this?
Oh, I self-published it. And the reason why I did is because I had gone to a convention, and I learned from some of the people there that in order to go conventional, I had to have a certain amount of words. And so with the type of book that I wrote, I would have had to, like I said before, it was 18,464 words, so I would have had to add about 52,000 more words.
Okay.
In order for them to even consider it, because, they have their requirements.
Yeah. James, please tell our listeners, where can readers find your book?
Well, it's on every platform. It can be found on Amazon. It can be found on the platform of Barnes & Noble, Goodreads, all of those, besides from my own website, which is planetstoryland.com.
Okay. James, whenever I interview an author, I always love to ask the standard question. Well, actually, I'll wait for that. Let's start at the beginning. James, let's talk about yourself. Where were you born and raised?
I was born in Cincinnati, Ohio, in August of '58, and in 1962 we moved to Windsor Hills, California, and so I spent most of my life growing up in Windsor Hills. So I must have been about close to. Well, we came to Los Angeles and eventually ended up in Windsor Hills, so I was 10 when I was in Windsor Hills, but that's where I spent most of my time there. And there was a lot of landscaping that I did. My mother was a stay-at-home mom, so we did a lot of work in the yard, and I fed the birds. I enjoyed birds immensely. And, of course, I went to the library all the time, and then we went to the beach a lot, and I collected rocks. And, life was just amazing. And so I was probably the first person out of the house and the last person in the house in my neighborhood, because there's just so much that I wanted to do, and so
Okay.
I'm still excited.
Okay. Where did you go to college, James?
I went to Stanislaus State. I graduated high school in '76, and I really wasn't leaning towards going to college. My mother said that I should at least do 2 years of college just to get the experience. My counselor suggested a college, and so I went to Stanislaus State. And I went there thinking that I was going to continue my education in architectural drafting and gymnastics. Unfortunately, though the catalog said that they had those classes, when I got there, I realized that it was a young school and they were just trying to attract as many students as they could. So I just did a lot of general ed, and at the end of the second year, I decided that they didn't have what I wanted. Mm-hmm. But I did take classes like sociology, philosophy, and psychology, because I thought those were rather interesting subjects that I didn't get a chance to learn when I was in high school or junior high school. So.
I'm curious. I've never heard of Stanislaus State. Where is that located? What town? What city is that?
Okay, it's in Turlock, which is Central California. It's near Modesto. It's east of Sacramento.
Okay.
Okay.
Yeah. Okay. Whenever I interview an author, James, I always love to ask the standard question. When you were growing up, who were your favorite authors? And of those favorite authors, did any of them light the spark inside you to become a writer, or perhaps influence your writing style?
That was a good one. Matthew, I actually had to look up the author's name, because when I was in fourth grade, we had a book club, and one of the books that I found was about a boy that was let me see, what did they call him? His name was Encyclopedia Brown. He is a boy detective, that's what they call him. And I never learned the author's name until recently, when you asked me that question. It was Donald J. Sobel. And he wrote a series of these books, and I always thought, I always loved the book. Every time they came out with one, I bought one. So Encyclopedia Brown was one, but I'm not too sure if the author had any, that I got any inspiration from the author, other than the fact that a kid detective seems like a cool idea, a cool kid.
Yeah.
And I kind of think, kids, they're kind of detectives in their own right anyway, because they're always asking questions. And
yeah.
Which was the main reason why I chose to make the main character a kid, is because, see, we're always trying to, as kids, we're always trying to get someone to tell us why things are the way they are. Mm-hmm. Well, why don't you do it this way? Why isn't it like that? And so I figured that most people could relate to that, more so than if I tried to give some boring adult perspective.
Okay. James, what will be your next book project, and when can we expect its release?
I'm asked that all the time, Matthew. I have some ideas. I'm not really sure how to put it in book form, but I have thought about it from time to time. But really right now, I want to, as many people as possible, to become familiar with the book Planet Storyland, because one of the things that was amazing to me, it happened while I was writing. I don't exactly remember where in the book it was, but I do know that it occurred to me that writing was the one tool that we have that allows us to transfer something invisible and make it visible. And so the message in the book is really about some of the amazing things that have come as a result of writing. And there's what I would consider 7 aspects of writing, such as, of course, there's the alphabet. That's one of the tools, and then there's the numbers, which is 0 through 9, and then there's the mathematical equations, there's the musical symbols, there's drafting symbols, there's the periodic table, and there's punctuation marks. And so with those tools, we're able to just about create anything that we imagine. And that's really the thrust of the book and the thrust of what Quentin came down to Earth to share. And he put it in a book, and he named the book Planet Storyland.
Okay. James, I want to thank you so much for appearing on the show. And when your next book comes out, let me know. I want you on my show again, okay? Please?
Matthew, thank you very much. This has been a true pleasure.
You take care now. Go ahead.
Okay, all right.
No, go ahead. Bye-bye. Go ahead. No, go ahead. Go ahead. What are you going to say?
I was going to say that, when you first contacted me, I had to look back and see when that was, and it was like almost a year ago, and I thought, surely this can't be real, but if it is, I'll be happy when that day comes. And so I want to thank you very much for following through and contacting me, because it's been a great experience. And I hope to hear from you again.
Thank you, James. That means a great deal to me. Well, that's the thing. I never break a commitment to a guest. That's always been the goal of my podcast, is to shine a light on my guests and give them a chance to, to display their talents and tell their story to the world and share it with the world. And that's what I'm giving to you, the chance that, I'm shining a light upon you, and here's a chance for you to share with the world the gift you have given to the world. Okay, James?
Thank you, Matthew, very much. I appreciate it.
You're very welcome. And again, I can't wait to have you on. Just let me know when your next book comes out, okay?
I certainly will, Matthew.
You take care.
Enjoy your evening.
You too. Okay.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye. Stay tuned, ladies and gentlemen, for my next show, where I'll be interviewing author Peter de Christopher. Thank you and good night.